Hey, Kay, I have a win.
You have a win. We love hearing wins.
I was the one a couple of weeks ago who said that talk about renting the pads for my grandfather.
Yes.
And so we did, and I got them all set up. Got all the pads last Wednesday. So today would be like day 7 or 8. And we created the helmet with the 2T pads. And I told him twice a day, just turn it on. It stays on for 20 minutes. And I told him, because part of his problem is really memory.
Sure.
I told him, I said,
would
if you can't
would you share with everybody a little bit, your grandfather, how old and what you're using it for?
Oh, okay. So he's going to be 91 in July, and he's having a lot of frustration about his short-term memory. For example, he will ask me the same question 4 or 5 times within a 2-hour span. We watch football together. And so he'll ask me a question about, how was your week, or how are your horses? And I will tell him. And then about 30 minutes later, he'll ask again and I'll tell him. And so that could go on through the course of a whole football game, about every 30 to 45 minutes, him asking me a question. So when we had the one about how the light works on neurons, I was like, I think we need to get Grandpa some pads. So that's the main thing. He tells me, he's still doing things correctly. Like he doesn't leave the stove on, but he doesn't remember turning the stove off. So he goes back to check 3 or
Sure.
4 or 5 times to make sure. Did he lock the door? It's always locked, but he doesn't remember that he locked it.
Right.
That kind of stuff. So we created the helmet with the T pad, and I just told him, 20 minutes twice a day on the number 2 for the brain. And I told him, if you can't remember if you already used it this morning, do it again. If you can't remember whether you did it this evening, do it again. And he has a dry erase board where we write down the most important things for him so that when he'll see it. So it's a visual cue. And so he did Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then when I was sitting with him on Sunday watching football, just the week before, he'd asked me, I don't know if you're a football person, you'll know what I'm talking about, but whichever team's on offense, they put a little white football next to the score on that team's score to show that they're the ones with the ball. And every football game this season, he has asked one of the family, what's that little dot by the score? What does that mean? Why is that there? And we tell him. And he might ask 3 or 4 times in a game. 2 weeks ago, he asked me 4 times in one game what that was for. Then we were sitting watching football this past day, again, 4 days into the lights. And he asked me, he said, well, how should I feel if these lights are working? And I said, well, Grandpa, I don't know the specific things. I said, but hopefully you'll feel like you're not forgetting things as much. That's the main thing that we're working on. I said, and if you have other things that feel better, let me know. And then just for curiosity's sake, I looked over at the TV and I was like, Grandpa, what's that little dot next to the 21 there? And he looked at it for a second. He says, oh, that means that's the team that has the ball. And
Awesome.
I said, did you know that last Sunday you asked me that question 4 times? And he said, no. He said, but I just looked at it and the answer appeared in my brain. So that was a week ago Sunday. My mom came home from a cruise on Sunday night and joined us to watch the second football game. What I noticed was that he did not repeat any questions he asked about her cruise. Normally, he would have asked her, how was your cruise? And she would have told him. And then in an hour, he would have asked again, Betsy, how was your cruise? And she would have told him again. He asked no repeat questions on Sunday at all. He asked very specific questions about the cruise, but none of them were repeats for that whole evening. So he's sold. You should be hearing from my mom soon about buying those pads because
good.
Because he said, my mom said, do you feel any different? He said, I do feel different in a good way. And then she told me last night when she was over helping him with this computer, for the first time in a year, he asked her to help him relearn about his online banking because he was doing online banking. And then about a year ago, he said, I don't want to do it because I don't want to mess something up. because I can't remember anything. He was very paranoid about it. So he's confident enough now, after whatever we're at, a week, to say that he would like to start learning about his online banking again.
That's great. That is awesome.
Yeah.